NRL Insider, and joining us here, well, Tohu Harris. How are you, my friend?
Good, yourself?
Pretty well, thank you. T, I can't think of anyone else who's actually come out of the Hawke's Bay Hastings Boys High School in the rugby league fold. You got a couple in your mind?
Yeah, first one that comes to mind is Kevin Tarmady. He's still there now, looking after Hawke's Bay Rugby League. But he's obviously played for the Kiwis and had a few memorable moments there. But so there's him. There's Hep Cahill, went to Napier Boys, but he went through the Melbourne system and then had some success over in the Super League. So there's a couple.
Strong area down there. Always good to go back to too. Always love the fruit from down there.
Big fruit area.
When the Melbourne Storm come knocking, would have been somewhere around 2009, getting close to the 2010 season. Was there any inkling in your mind that one T Harris was going to play rugby league?
No, none at all. Like I played rugby union growing up, and little bits of rugby league here and there, and my little bits of experience playing rugby league, that's where I sort of got to meet people like David Lomax, who I think he had a big sort of influence at the start when I was a bit younger. But it was mainly rugby union, and wasn't until I had the opportunity to go to that camp and got a scholarship from the Melbourne Storm that it sort of become some sort of a reality.
Melbourne Storm were taking a lot of people on scholarship back then. It was a developing club, even though they were beginning to be very successful. They fly you over, treat you to Melbourne, have a look, see what it's all about.
Yeah, for some reason, I can't remember why, but I missed all of them. I didn't actually. The first time I went over was when it was the start of the pre-season after I finished school, and went straight into training with the under-20s. And for some reason I missed all the camps, and I don't know what happened there, but TJ Perinara was the other guy who got the scholarship, and I saw him a couple of times at rugby tournaments and stuff, and you'd often ask like where I was or how come I wasn't there. But I was pretty lucky to still have the opportunity to go and train with the under-20s, and I remember even turning up for that pre-season, and I didn't know which team I was training for. It was I didn't know if it was under-18s or under-20s, but it turned out it was the Toyota Cup team that I got to train with, and it's.
And that McGlashan Oval was a pretty shitty oval down there in Melbourne too, wasn't it? It was full of bloody water the whole time and everything, and running around in sludge.
Yeah, by the time is that what Vizzy Park used to be known as?
Yeah, the backfield.
Yeah, no, it was. We sort of just had to make do wherever we got put, really.
Yeah.
What was it like having, like eyes peeled on your first grade team? It was the guys like Billy Slater, Cameron Smith, at their prime too, you know what I mean? Was that sort of just a highlight, was reaching for the stars when you're in that 20 systems? Sometimes you get up and get against them and opposed and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, it was unreal. Like I've always considered myself extremely lucky to be able to go into that system and just viewing how they did things, and learning the system in under-20s, but then seeing it, those guys and the standard they perform, what we were trying to learn, the standard they were performing at first grade level was it was unreal to see, and getting to understand what we were trying to do, but seeing them do it like clear as day, it was really good for sort of our development, and it helped me sort of understand what I was meant to do on the field, just watching those guys perform.
Do you remember a moment maybe where you'd done something well or played a game really well, and maybe Craig Bellamy came over and might have had a chat to you, and then you walk away going, hey, he actually chatted to me?
Like a lot of the time, we would get feedback from our 20s coaches and things like that, but there was one point where I started training first grade, and Craig, I think they had a few injuries, and Craig said like I was a chance, but ended up not working out with the development rules. But I think that was maybe the first time that sort of had an inkling that it was doing the right thing. I think it was my second year there or something. So it was pretty unreal and nerve-wracking, but ended up having not happening, but knowing that like I was sort of doing the right things. Yeah.
You would have walked home a bit taller that day.
I think I was just a bit shocked.
I'll take you to your debut season, which is just outstanding. So the pre-season of 2013, Melbourne Storm have won the comp in 2012, and I guess, with that, a couple of players leave, so there are opportunities. Do you remember that pre-season? Was there, coming off that 2012, were you thinking, this is an opportunity for me?
Around the 20s.
I do remember the pre-season, and it was a pre-season that, like the 2 years before, I was coming off the back of some long-term injuries, and just having a few conversations with my fiance back then, and saying, like, working out the changes I needed to make off the field to give it a good crack, because there was opportunities coming up. Knew I had a lot of work to do, but needed to make changes to be able to take advantage of those opportunities, and I ended up making those changes, and had it like doing every single session of that pre-season, and getting an opportunity to play in that first game, which was pretty surreal.
Yeah, and that first game you're talking about is the game against Leeds, the Super League champions, and you go up for the World Club Challenge and you play that game. I mean, the whole pre-season would have been about, hey, I can make this trip, you know what I mean? And a great trip to go on as well.
Yeah, I didn't actually, I probably didn't actually consider my chances until they actually named the squad going. I think it was, they named the 21 going on that trip. After a trial against Canberra, I think it was, and we played pretty bad. I think they beat us by about 40 in the trial. So, so I don't think I realised sort of the opportunity I had right up until they named that squad. And I think Kiwi Proctor had an injury at the time, so it ruled him out. So that it really sort of opened up a spot to try and grab. And thankfully I was able to have that opportunity to play in that game.
Strong history of Kiwis at the Melbourne Storm. You mentioned KP just there, but I mean the Bromwich boys, and prior to that Tawera Nekau, and of course Mooks, you know what I mean? Yeah. And outstanding back rowers in amongst them all, to be fair. There's been a lot of outstanding back rowers come through the Storm system, and a lot of them have been Kiwi guys, like you mentioned, Tawera, Mooks, and then had Blairy there for a long time, and he was the one there that was sort of established there at the time when we first came through under 20s, and me and guys like Kenny Bromwich, and he obviously had his older brother there to look up to as well, but as back rows, Blairy was sort of setting the example there week in, week out at first grade, and Sikamanu as well, so it was pretty good to watch their sort of standards and their example for Kiwi players. The 2013 year, when Mooks is coach, he selects you straight in, first year into the Kiwis. Simon Mannering does a calf injury. I think you're 18th man. You then come into the side. Isaac John, they were hesitant whether he was going to play 5'8" or not, and you play 5'8".
That was the year after. I think 2013 was a bit sort of weirder than that. Like I think there was a few injuries and one suspension. I think there was a couple of injuries, one suspension, then I got pulled into 18th man, and that was like halfway during the week, and then captain's run, they ruled out Dewey with a calf injury, so then I came into the 17 and then ended up playing the last 20 or 30 minutes of that game for the debut. So it was a few different guys fell over or missed out on the opportunity to play, and that was how I sort of come into the side.
Yeah, and then there was some shenanigans at the end of the year too when you got named in the Kiwi side to go on tour with them, and then Sonny Bill got named the day later, and you then went for surgery at the end of it. You had an injury to look after as well, but it was really quite bizarre, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was ended up being a bit of a roller coaster year with but there were a lot of positives throughout the year that and I was also getting married at the end of it, so there was a lot of extremely positive things going on for me and my wife that year. So we, I sort of look back on it and think I probably wasn't ready for that World Cup, so it's probably I don't know, a blessing in disguise. But yeah, it's
You had played every game that year for the Storm, 25 games. Bowed out in the semis, but you had managed to play every game, which was, a marvellous effort in first season of NRL.
Yeah, so it was a big year for myself, and again, like looking back on it, I probably wasn't quite ready myself, like considering how big the year was, and so I don't look back on it sourly or anything like that. Like this, I was very, very lucky for the things that happened to me that year, so there's nothing to complain about.
2014, so you come off your rookie season. Cameron Smith's having a few back issues, turned into a goal kicker.
Do you remember?
Yeah, I remember it very clearly. It was pretty funny, or not what happened to Smithy, but that was pretty strange. We were on the team walk, and I think his back just goes on him, and we were sitting in the changing rooms. They let us know that he's unlikely to play, but he'll get checked out, and that I'll be goal kicking. I did a little bit of practicing and things like that, but hadn't really sort of seriously worked on it. But yeah, got given the opportunity to goal kick, and wasn't until just before the warm up where he got like the final decision to be ruled out, and I got the job and went out there. I remember this clearly because it was my first couple of kicks. I just lined it out in front because I thought, just get a couple over and get the confidence up. And I could hear Will Chambers. I could feel him standing behind me, and he was just watching. And first couple of kicks, I hooked them, and I'm right in front, and I could just hear him just under his breath just say something I can't repeat. I think it was more out of nervousness that he might have to kick. But yeah, ended up getting a couple of kicks over during the game, which was all right. 2014
has a really good ending to the year. The Kiwis are in a bit of a fold or a vein where they don't fear Australia. We've had a couple of wins against Australia in the Four Nations at the end of the year in Wellington. Do you remember that match?
Yeah, I do. It was pretty special to be a part of, to be a part of a side that beat Australia to win the Four Nations, and we had beaten them in the game in Brisbane, which was a pretty special moment for a lot of us in the team who'd never beaten Australia before, and it was only, I think, my third Test match. So to experience that was pretty cool, and then to go on through the Four Nations and beat them in the final, it was a pretty surreal feeling, and we had a lot of young guys in the squad like Peter Hiku, Jason Tamalolo, like we'd sort of to go through junior Kiwis together, and then to have some success at the top level. It was a pretty cool moment.
T, you're now passing 100 games or close to with the Melbourne Storm, and you're grand final bound. The Sharks, 2016. Do you remember the build up to that? I mean, for Melbourne, it's a procession. You go grand final qualifier or grand final pretty much every year, but that was your first taste.
Yeah, it was. I still remember the week. I know that they've, obviously been to a lot of grand finals and had a lot of success, but Craig had always put an emphasis on taking in the moment, because you never know when you get a chance to go back. So it was about sort of enjoy the week, not sort of I guess, not try and get too pent up about doing all the different media things and because if you try and shut that out and try and stay too focused, it's by the end of the week you're just exhausted pretty much. So I think they put a big focus on enjoying the week, just accepting what you have to get done, do the things you have to do, and then when it's time to focus on the field, then get that part right. But yeah, it was about sort of enjoying the week and taking it all in, because you never know when you get a chance to get back there, and hearing different stories of guys playing in grand finals and then some not being able to play in another one, or different things like that. So they put a big emphasis on the gratitude towards being a part of that game, and I think that part I really appreciate, because I got to let myself experience all of it, and then that game I felt like I didn't play my best, but I probably was too hard on myself afterwards. But yeah, again, I think I felt I think that was sort of a driving factor for me the next year.
Well, that's history for the Sharks. They get up in that match, but you're right. 2017, you're changing as well. You've got contract talks on go with the Warriors. You realise it's going to be your last year at the Storm, and I guess that probably makes it even more special in a way.
Yeah, my contract talks happened during the pre-season, because I wanted to sort of get that done and focus on the year, and it turns out it was going to be my last year. And then throughout the year we found out it's going to be a few of the other guys last year. So Cooper's last year, Jordan McLean, who I sort of come through the under-20s with, Slade Griffin, a few guys that were all sort of close together that turned out it was going to be our last year. So I think that was a big motivating factor for myself, especially with Coops there, the stuff he'd done for the club, and he's done for a lot of the young guys coming through that just want to put in a big effort to make it a memorable year for those guys.
And your performance is different too. You actually have a blinder in the grand final. And so you just mentioned the 2016 grand final. Was there something you sort of mentally took that week and say, hey, I just need to relax a bit more this week? I did get too built up, or I just needed to get a touch early? I mean, you always get lots of touches anyway.
I think there's just finding that balance. I think maybe the first year I sort of got too caught up in everything, and maybe sort of by the end of the week I maybe was putting too much pressure on myself, or I'm not too sure, but I remember 2017 just being very relaxed and pretty confident in my role and what I had to do, and just things sort of just happened. I wasn't sort of overthinking things. I just played really, and we come out with a good result.
And it makes for a good off-season too, doesn't it? I mean, you actually get to say goodbye to some friends in Melbourne and pack up and come over back home to Aotearoa and sort it out.
Yeah, it made leaving on a good note was pretty special, and it to be able to see the legend of the club like Coops leaving with a win like that was unreal. Being able to send him off like that, personally, it was a pretty cool experience, and my family there, and being able to win one, that was great. But seeing guys like Coops and I think Billy coming back, wasn't able to play the year before, and those guys winning one again, that was it's pretty cool to see.
Your journey starts in 2018 with the New Zealand Warriors. Of course, Stephen Kearney, who you've got to know through the Kiwis as a coach, and you enjoy his coaching, and also Rogers come to the club. It was a big change at the Warriors, wasn't it? It was successful as well. I mean, you play finals.
Yeah. I don't know sort of too much of what was happening the years before, but I know sort of Rog was wanting to change things and change how the club does things, especially on the football side of things. So yeah, it was sort of just about like supporting him and what he wanted to do, and you know, just coming in and adding sort of what I brought, or you know, trying to help lift the standards of around training and off the field and things like that. So yeah, it was you know, Rog and Mooks already had an idea of where they wanted to go, so it was just about coming in and supporting them.
And the team, while it performs and plays finals, it bows out early in the finals, which was a disappointing result, because that finals game against Penrith in particular, the team looked flat. You know what I mean? Didn't particularly have a great deal of energy.
No, we definitely had our team definitely had lots of ability, and we certainly were good enough. We just, yeah, we come out flat, and they come out like firing on all cylinders and just sort of blew us off the park early.
COVID hits, 2020, tough year for everyone. The game in Newcastle, you stay on against the Central Coast, and then I think the season works in your favour. Having everyone together here at Terrigal made a lot of opportunity for some young guys to really stand up. Is that how you view last year?
Yeah, I think eventually that's sort of how we saw it, but I think by the time we accepted what was happening and you know, accepted the situation, I think it was sort of too late in terms of results on the field and making the finals. But yeah, it was you know, it was a bit sort of, at times it was hard, but you know, especially seeing, you know, Rog without his family, seeing like that. But you know, at times it certainly was really hard, but it was an opportunity for us to sort of come together and work on different things that we probably never got the opportunity to work on living away from each other. And I think that's why this year it feels a lot easier, or we feel a lot more settled, because we're used to the situation, and we're sort of turning it into a positive rather than being forced to do something, if that makes sense.
The transition a little bit for yourself too, from edge to middle last year. But if a coach asks an edge back rower to go to the middle, it normally plays like a middle. But you still play like an edge back rower when you're in the middle, which is fantastic. It means, you know, it means you're just suited to basically be where the ball is, whether it's middle or edge. So your role, you don't really see changing if you are given a task of one or the other, do you?
No, obviously, like where you get the ball on the field is a bit different, but yeah, I really enjoyed going into the middle, because you just felt like you stayed busy and you're constantly doing something, whereas a lot of the times on the edge you sort of have to wait till the game comes to you. But yeah, again, like it's all the same. You're playing, you know, you're playing footy with some of your mates, so it's a pretty simple game at the end of the day. But yeah, I really enjoyed the change last year.
Eli Katoa, Jermaine Tonoa-Brown. Okay, last year for me just jumped out of the ground. You know what I mean? And courtesy of they would have been watching yourself play and say, oh, I'm going to get in there and play with Tohu and get up to his level. You've become a leader in this team, and you need it.
Oh,
do you see that?
Yeah, I think at times I sort of lose sight of it, and I'm going to realise sort of how old I am now. But yeah, like guys like that, they sort of because they work so hard, they're pretty quiet guys, but you see the work that they put in. It sort of makes you want to push yourself as well. You know, especially like those two guys are prime examples. They, you know, not a lot of experience, but they're, you know, throwing everything out there at training, and you see all the effort that they put into in games and how much it means to them. So, you know, it is, you know, especially being a bit older, and you know, it sort of keeps you fresh and keeps you wanting to work hard for them as well.
T, I've kept you long enough, my friend. It's been enjoyable to chat to. Plenty of football left in you. A lot of good comrades here in 2021 to move on as well. So we wish you all the best for the season.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.